So my name's Tino D'Angelo. I'm the National Director for Chinese Herbal Medicine. On behalf of ANTA and the National Council, I'd like to welcome you here today. I think we might start by doing an acknowledgement to country. So I'd like to acknowledge the people of the Woi Wurrung and the Boon Wurrung language groups of the Kulin Nation on whose land we're gathering on today. I pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and extend my respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people here today. So before we start, you might have noticed the QR codes around. And so it's an exciting time for us at ANTA. So we're just starting our 5-year strategic plan. And as such, we would like your influence on this. And as always, so we're asking for that. So it's just a few questions. It won't take you too long. If you haven't already clicked on this or done the survey, if you could do that maybe during the break or in between speakers, that'd be great. Look, it might take about 5 minutes for you to do, but we would really value your feedback and your opinions going forward. So yeah, it is an exciting time. And thanks for your help in advance. All right, so for our first speaker, I'd like to welcome Christos Miliankos. And Christos has been a practicing naturopath and Bowen therapist in Wangaratta since 2001. He specialises in integrated iridology, Bowen therapy, naturopathy and homeopathy. He teaches iridology, Bowen therapy and Rayed Order, and also is the past president of the International Iridology Practitioners Association. So please join me in welcoming Christos here today.
That's a bit of a tongue twister, that one. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here on a Sunday morning. And hopefully it's not as hot outside as it was yesterday. We haven't been outside yet, but hopefully it's cooled down. I'm Christos Miliankos, and I've been a naturopath since 2000, so 24 years. And I studied right here in Melbourne at the Southern School of Natural Therapies. Did anyone else study there? Yeah. Yeah, it was back in the 90s. I studied in 94, and it was quite different to what I see now with a lot of the graduates coming through. It's quite a lot more scientific. And why I love this topic is because with a lot of these graduates, and for myself as well, we do lots of testing. Yeah, like as naturopaths now, we do so much testing. We do microbiome tests and oat tests and hormone tests, etc. We get such great information that we can work with, but there's so much information that we can get through our eyes and through our face and our tongue right then and there. Because I find that when people come to see us, to load your presentation. Oh, sorry. Because I find that when people come to see us, they kind of don't want to wait 2 weeks to get the testing results. They want to get some answers then and there. And I'm not saying don't do all that testing, I do it too. But they want to get some answers and things that they can do right then and there for when they go home that day. And even just with our words can even be medicine. Even just with what we say to them, we want them to be able to feel better. So that's why I love this topic. And with everyone that comes to see me, whether they're coming for Bowen therapy for their sore back or whether they're coming in for constipation or anything, I always look at their eyes, tongue and face, and I do nails as well. I won't present much about nails today because of time, but I do those 4 things and I just find it gives me so much great information. So, we've got a clicker too. Fantastic. So the iris, you may recognise this chart. Has anyone studied iridology in their naturopathy degree? Yeah, fabulous. So you would have started with this chart or a variation of it because this chart has changed over the years. So when Bernard Jensen was alive back in the late last century, and we all studied his course. That's what I studied as well. We studied the Bernard Jensen course. It was 2 big, huge manuals, and it was fabulous. It was absolutely fabulous. But the world of iridology has changed a lot since then. And if Bernard Jensen was alive, he would have adapted too. And he did adapt towards the end of his life. So his daughter-in-law, Ellen Jensen, has developed this chart further. And our current understanding of iridology is that the eyes don't change. Like if you told me that in 94, I'm like, what? Because the iris, the fibres in our iris are a reflection of what we've inherited from our last 4 generations. Yeah. And I'll show you an example of my eye in a sec. But with anything we study, we need a map. If we want to go from here to Bay Morris later, I'm going to use my Google Maps. We have a map to further our advancement of where we want to go. So this is a map of iridology. And as you can see, it's really easy to order if you need to order one from Alan Jensen's website. And I have one on my wall, and I like pointing things out to people. And you don't have to be an expert at iridology to do this. You can say, I see a marking right here in the liver area at 8 o'clock on the right iris. And that becomes a nurture point. So I like to think of things as nurture points. I like to think of things as these are the areas that we need to focus on for you. Does that make sense? Yep. And as long as we focus on these areas, we'll all have a few nurture points. You're going to feel better. You're going to feel better if you're going to focus on some of those areas. So I'm going to read this out to you because it's a very important slide, and I'm very happy for you to have these slides. So if you want to have these slides, come and see me in the break, and I'll email them to you. So the colour and pattern of our iris is a reflection of the 3 generations before us. So that means whether you develop the dispositions to the best case scenario or the worst case scenario depends on what we do, depends on what we eat and drink and think and live and love, and that's what we help people with. We help them work out what is the best way for them to eat, what is the best way for them to drink and to work and to be in the world. It's not just magnesium and and extra water. It's also how they be in the world. So it's what we do with what we get that counts. So when I first studied iridology, I absolutely loved it. It was actually my first course, my first subject. It was a Monday evening. I did part-time because I had to work full-time. It wasn't HEX at that stage. We just had to pay for it up front. So I worked full-time and did it in the evening. It was my first class, and I absolutely loved it. It was Helen McWillis, and she was great and passionate, and I read all the books cover to cover. And in May that year, there was a lady that came with her little wheelie thing, and she put it up on she had to get help to put it up on the table, and then we put our faces in it, and she took a Polaroid photo of our eyes. I mean, that was the best technology in '94. We didn't have, now I can take a fantastic, way better photo with my phone. But that was the technology. And I saw in my eyes, this is my eye in the corner, and you'll see my eyes a bit later on too, a bit bigger. But I saw in my eyes that I had weaknesses. And I had toxic spots. That's what we call them. We call them weaknesses and toxic spots. And I thought to myself, you know what, I am going to get rid of those. Whatever it takes. So I did fasting, I did watermelon fast, I did yoga, I rode my bike and never caught the tram. I did everything I thought I could do, and I was a vegan at the time. I was so idealistic. I'm not a vegan anymore. And the next year she came back. Okay, the next year she came, and I was really super excited because I felt fantastic. I hadn't had a headache, I hadn't taken any Panadol or anything for 10 years. I really felt so good. And she took another photo, and it did look slightly different because, if you use Fuji or Kodak or, it's going to look different. It's just different paper. And they're little Polaroids. And it did look a little bit different, but the weaknesses and the toxic spots were still there. And I was like, what else do I need to do? Because we thought that if you cleansed, they were going to straighten, didn't we? That's what we were taught. And that was the understanding. But do you know what? I can take a photo of your eyes 4 times now within a second, 5 seconds, and I can make them look different. Because if the pupil's bigger, it's going to look different. If there's more flash, it's going to look different. So it's not, if we're going to use this as research, we need to compare with exactly the same thing. So I was a bit disillusioned, to be honest. I still used iridology because I loved it. But I was a bit disillusioned because I thought, well, if it doesn't change, what's the point? As naturopaths, we want to see things we want to see our clients get better. So, I sort of used it a little bit, but it wasn't like gusto. And then when I became a naturopath in 2000, I saw a sign from one of my other naturopaths in my clinic for an emotional iridology course. And my initial reaction was, get real, seriously. I mean, I've got 2 science degrees. I've got a Bachelor of Health Science and Naturopathy and a Bachelor of Science. So I've done a lot of science in my life. And I thought, emotions in the iridol, but I went, because I'm open-minded. And I went, and the lady said to me, Tony Miller, so some of you may have heard of Tony Miller. She said to me, Chris, do you love your parents? Well, yeah. I didn't know where she was going. I said, do you love your grandparents? I said, yeah, absolutely. And she said, would you change them? Like if I said, I could give you a better set, would you change them? I said, no, that's stupid. She goes, why would you want to change your eye? Because that's what they reflect. So back in 2000, the world had changed, and they worked out that the irises are stable. And the iris is your best form of identification. Do you know if you go into this, if you work for the CIA, they don't give you a card, because anyone can change a card. They take a scan of your iris, and it's 99.99 something % correct. I mean, your fingerprint is only 97 something. Like, it's the best form of identification because it's so stable. But when she was telling me this, I thought, that's when the penny dropped, and I thought, this is actually so powerful in making us, in allowing us to know how to make ourselves well and how to keep ourselves well. So it was really profound moment for me. So I know some of you will think, yeah, but I've seen changes in the eye, and that's great. And I always say, show me the pictures, because I want to see the pictures. Because, we have to be open-minded. Like in 20 years, we might be thinking it might have evolved further. I mean, the technology changes so much. But what we've seen over the last 25 or so years is the iris is very stable, the structure of the iris. So that might be very different to what you guys think. But the sclera, the nails, the tongue, that all changes. And I find that really reinforces iridology. So reinforces what we see in the iris. Okay. So I'm going to just give you a little bit of a revision about eyes, and especially for those people that haven't done it, because just by focusing on the colour, you can tell someone exactly the best type of diet for them, just by focusing on the colour. So there's actually 3 colours. There's mixed, there's blue, there's brown, and there's mixed. So you can see in the top right, there's blue. Actually left for you guys. Top left, there's blue. Across there's brown, and then there's more brown on the bottom, and there's a mixed. And you can see there's so many different patterns. There's actually 16 billion different iris patterns in the world. Because not even your left and right are the same. Even in twins, there's some similarities for sure. And I've done a bit of a study on intergenerational iris. I really love that topic, and I try and get as many 4-generation photos as possible. But you can see, even in these pictures, there's some straight fibres, there's some flowers, there's some jewels. And even those words, flowers and jewels, aren't they much nicer than toxic spots and weaknesses? Like if I said to someone, you've got a toxic spot in your liver, like, really? But if I said to someone, you've got a jewel in your liver area, wow. I love jewels. I've got, a few jewels on my rings, and, it's nice. We can speak those words to people. They don't need to know that it's a lacuna. What does a lacuna mean? So I use flowers and jewels. So if it's an opening, if it's a lacuna, I use the word flower. If it's a pigment, I use the word jewel. So blue eyes tend to be, so remember, these are tendencies. Doesn't mean everyone with blue eyes will have experienced some of these. They're tendencies. So blue-eyed people are more likely to have mucus congestion. Their primary nurture point is the lymphatic system. Okay? They're more likely to have childhood ear, nose and throat issues, overactive immune system, maybe asthma, maybe respiratory issues. They're often the kids that come home from childcare over and over and over and get sick. They're snuffly. Okay? Hyperacidity can be quite common as well. So I'm going to go through the 3 types, and then we're going to go through what advice I give them. Yeah. So the brown-eyed people are more like, their primary nurture point is the circulation. Okay. So circulation means that, how they're moving. Are they constipated? Do they get varicose veins? Do they get, issues with their legs and edema, etc. Variable blood sugar levels are common. Liver or gallbladder insufficiency is common. These people tend to be sluggish, so they need to move. One of the things is they need to move. They need more fibre and things like that. And then we've got the mixed type, and the primary nurture point for the mixed type is the liver. So the sluggish liver and gallbladder conditions, constipation and or diarrhea, these are the type of people that sometimes, are sometimes constipated, sometimes they have diarrhea. They change, they're variable quite often, depending on what they eat and drink and think. Flatulence, sluggish detoxification, variable blood sugar levels. So these people are really good to put on a detox program annually. So most of my mixed types have a thing on their phone and said, come and see Christos for a spring detox, because they feel great. And when they do that, they feel great. So what I do in my clinic is I focus on the colour and I focus on 3 nurture points to begin with. And then I think it'd be really good to do some blood tests here. It'd be really good to do, some hormone testing. Really good to know their microbiome. We build on from that. But you can't do that all together. I don't see people for 2 hours at the beginning. I know some naturopaths who do, and that's great. But I personally, I would be overwhelmed. So I like to see people for 45 minutes. We do iridology. We work out what they need. I give them a herbal mix generally and maybe some magnesium or fish oil or something. And then they come back 2 weeks later and we build on that. So it's about building a relationship with people over time. So for me, I'm a blue-eyed type. Hands up if you're blue-eyed. Yeah. Keep your hand up if you've experienced some of those issues before in your life. Yeah. Interesting. So I'm a blue-eyed type. I'm quite dairy intolerant, but I did have some creme brulee at dinner last night, just letting you know. So mucus levels are really important for me to keep down, okay? But also, my 3 primary nurture points, I just pick 3 things that jump out at me. And you might pick different things. You might pick totally different things. And it doesn't mean we're wrong. It just means they're the areas that I'm going to work in, and they're the areas that you're going to work on. But if you pick 3 things that jump out at you and you give me something to do for those things, I'm going to feel better. Because you'll see, I can't use a pointer on these sort of screens, but the way we describe iridology is we use the clock. So you can see the right iris is always first. So you can see at 6 o'clock on the right iris, there's a funnel. Okay, there's a funnel, which means my collarette, which is my used to be called the autonomic nerve wreath, breaks right there and there. Okay, so it's that's in my kidney zone. So kidneys are super important for me, and I've never had a kidney problem. But my dad's had kidney stones twice. My brother has had kidney stones twice, and when he's had them, he wants to die. He said, if I could choose to die right now, I would. It's so painful. My paternal grandfather died of a heart attack, often associated with the kidneys. So the kidneys are super important, and I don't have a kidney problem. However, I do need to drink every 2 hours. So if I don't drink for 2 hours, I may get a headache. Because you can see at the top of that collarette, there's a bit of a stoop, if you like. It descends a little bit. So the head and water are really important for me. And if you see me outside, I'll always wear a hat. And I don't have much hair, so a hat protects my head. So as long as I drink enough water and wear a hat, I don't get headaches. So does that mean I've got weak kidneys? I don't think so. I think it means that I need to look after them and have enough water and wear a hat. It's just another way to look at it. It really is. And as long as I do that, I don't get headaches. As long as I have enough to drink, though. You'll see on the left eye, which is on this side, at 3 o'clock, right next to the collarette, which is the autonomic nerve wreath, there's a little flower, a closed flower. Can you see that? Yeah. That's exactly in the heart area. So heart is very important for me. So that's my other nurture point. Okay? So protecting my heart is super important, so I'm going to look after it. If I said protect this cat or nurture this cat, you're going to look after it. You're going to give it milk, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to buy the best food, you're going to pat it, you're going to sleep with it, whatever it takes. You're going to look after it. So that's what we want to do with your organs. So if I say your nurture point is your kidney, your heart, you're going to look after that. And the heart responds to love. So I want to do things that I love. And I'm really, really lucky that I love my job. I mean, sometimes people don't like their jobs, but they still do it with heart. I mean, that's a beautiful thing as well. So doing things that I love and being around people I love is very important. And it'll probably mean I don't think I'm ever going to have a heart attack. I've never had any heart issues. I've never had high blood pressure, anything like that. However, it's very important for me to look after my heart, to exercise and love what I do and love the people around me. Yeah. And I'm also going to pick at 9 o'clock on the right eye, so the further one there, there's quite a few flowers there. And that's in the lung area. Now, again, I don't have lung problems. I don't really get a cold. I think I had one once in the last 25 years, and my wife said that was the only time I sniffled. And last week, actually, my father died last week, and it was very sad, but it was the first time my wife said I called people to cancel my clinic time. I'd never done that in 25 years. Because, even though I didn't always feel fantastic, but I still went to work because I felt I could. So the lung areas are super important, but I don't have lung issues, but my brother's got cystic fibrosis. Okay, my sister, who died at 5 months of age, had died of pneumonia. My grandmother gave birth 6 times, but only 3 survived because they couldn't breathe. I mean, they probably all had cystic fibrosis. I'm going to take a bet on that. You know what I mean? Like, it's part of my family history, the lungs. And I don't have lung issues, but if I swim, if I go swimming in the sea, let's say, and I can't stand up, I panic. I feel like I can't breathe. And if that's part of this history, well, I'm still going to have a fantastic life because I still go swimming. I just don't go very far out. So, there's different ways we can help our clients to be the best they can be. So if I came to your clinic, you gave me nettle and you gave me hawthorn and you gave me like echinacea and a few things like that to protect those 3 areas, I'm going to feel great. I mean, there's no way I'm not going to feel great. So there's, if you've never studied iridology, you can start by just looking at the colour and just pick 3 things that jump out at you. If you've got an old chart, put it up on your wall. Put it up on your wall and use it. Because then I can do the testing. I mean, last week I went to a doctor. I go once a year, and he does my CRP readings because I've had ulcerative colitis before. Like it was a big thing. He does all of my testing, and so I still get all that done. But I know what to do to protect myself, and I know how much I can be naughty. Does that make sense? All right. So blue-eyed people. Blue-eyed is the lymphatic. The lymphatics are the nurture point. So this is what I give to all my people that are blue-eyed. I just have a copy and I hand it to them. And the things that I've marked, the things I've bolded are the things that I highlight in front of them. Because there's if you've got jewels in your eyes, you're going to read every single word. But if you've got flowers and no jewels, you're going to glance at it. You're going to put it in your bag, and 6 months later, you might clean up your bag and think, oh, that's where that is. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's different types of people, and we need to cater those. And you can actually tell how to present your information in your clinic by knowing a bit about their personality through the iris. It's quite fascinating. So reducing mucus-forming foods, we all know what they are. Wheat, dairy, sugar. I mean, they're all inflammatory foods to some degree as well. The daily diet should contain fruit and vegetables, lots of fresh stuff, and also lots of water. Okay, and the countries where these eyes are more prominent, like in Scandinavia and Northern Europe, they're very good at preserving. They're very good at preserving things that they've got, because they'll have plentiful berries and things in the summer, but not in the winter. So eating seasonal produce is also quite important, or preserving. Enzyme-rich food. Exercise in fresh air and sunshine is really important for blue-eyed people. And people in Scandinavia are so good at getting out in the winter. I mean, I was in Denmark just before Christmas last year, and there's this amazing sign. There's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing. And it was raining the whole day we were there, and everyone was out on their bikes still, because that's their mode of transport. It's fantastic. Singing. So for blue-eyed people, and if you're a blue-eyed, I'd like you to try this next week. Jumping on a trampoline and singing are 2 of the best remedies for you. And they're free. Well, you might have to go buy a trampoline if you don't have one. They're fantastic remedies, because singing really helps to exercise this system here, which is very prominent in blue-eyed people. And jumping on a trampoline helps to break the lymphatics, helps to keep them moving. So try that. Hematogenic are brown irises. Okay, that's the word for brown irises. So if these people tend to be sluggish, we need to get them moving. So we need more fibre, less animal fat. We need more fresh, white meats like fish and chicken, but hormone-free if possible. There's already too many hormones in our bodies. We don't need extra. I don't need to tell you guys that. Dark green leafy veggies are fantastic. Okay, vegetable juices, enzymes, and sometimes you need to do things. A lot of times, like when I had ulcerative colitis, I was strict 100% of the time for 6 months, and I was having at least a litre of juice. I was having my herbs for sure. Don't get me wrong, but I was having a litre of cabbage juice, cabbage, carrot, beetroot, ginger, and turmeric, because cabbage is the best thing for bleeding of the bowel. It's better than the herbs we've got. I might be a heretic saying that, but it is very, very good for the bowels. Cabbage juice for bleeding in the bowel. Fried food, and I do recommend that to a lot of my clients, and not all of them do it, because it is a very acquired taste. It took me 6 months to almost get used to it. But anyway, fried foods, we know that. Regular exercise, because if things are sluggish, move them. It's easy. It's a no-brainer. If things get sluggish, we want to move. Now, mixed wellness is to do with your liver. So blue is to do with lymphatics. That's your primary nurture point. The brown is to do with your circulation and your blood. And also mixed is to do with the liver. So we want to protect the liver. Things like saturated fats, alcohol, dairy, red meat, rich sweets, best to avoid. Lean white meat is much better, with lots of vegetables. Like a steak and mashed potato is not a meal. Like it's not a balanced meal. Like I personally don't like potatoes and I don't consider it a vegetable, but generally like having a colour. My mother-in-law always had to have 3 colours. There's a lot to that. Because all those colours have different nutrients that we want to have in our bodies. All my mixed people have start with a juice of half a lemon. Sometimes I add apple cider vinegar. You have to pick the person. You know who those people are going to be. Sometimes they add a bit of turmeric in them. But half a lemon first thing in the morning with water helps to cleanse the liver. So it's just a way for them to think, I'm cleansing my liver. Like that's really powerful. For them to say, I'm cleansing or to do something that helps them to think, I'm cleansing my liver, that's really powerful. So that's, all my mixed type people do that. Vegetable intake, good fats, obviously, adequate hydration, and they usually do a liver cleansing program annually. I mean, we all should really, but it's extra important for mixed people. Okay, so if you've got a mixed type iris, doing a spring detox or an autumn detox is a great idea. There's some people that do detoxes twice a year, and they feel great. So, but they haven't just walked in and I said you need to do it twice a year. We've worked that out by having a relationship over the last, so-and-so years. Now, people often say, do I need to do this forever? I mean, for some people, that the lymphatic diet is all they have. They have some potato, they have dairy, they have white bread, they have, that's all they have. So you've got to be realistic. You can't just say, no, you can't. You've got to be 100%. So I like to say the 80-15-5 rule, because then it gives them a bit of a leeway. So 80% of the time, I usually say, I want you to follow this diet. Diet with more fibre if if you're brown-eyed, or a diet with lower mucus levels if you're blue-eyed. And 15% of the time, let's say you visit Auntie Mabel and she's made you a lasagna, you may not question, unless you're celiac, you may not question if it's gluten-free or if she's, used, organic parmesan. Does it really matter? Just enjoy Auntie Mabel and visiting her. And then 5% of the time is your naughty time. That's like last night. I love creme brulee, so I wasn't not going to have it. Do you know what I mean? And another thing I love is chocolate and chili together. If I see it together in any chocolate shop, I'll always buy it because I love it. And it's naughty time. And I like to call it naughty time because people love to be naughty. I mean, who doesn't want to be naughty? You think, I shouldn't do that, but, So I do call it naughty time, and my clients like that. So I usually say the 80-15-5 rule. And this is the book that I'm in the middle of writing, so it's going to come out in the next few months. And I like the caption. One of my friends gave me that caption. It said, be healthy and eat cake. All right. Now, the signs that we see in our eyes are not a diagnosis. Okay, they're not a diagnosis at all. They used to be. When I studied Iridology, we used to say, you've got this and this and this. But they lead us to the questions to ask. So a good iridologist will say people with eyes like yours are usually related to someone who may have had some respiratory issues. Does that make sense to you? And I'll say, oh yes, my brother's got cystic fibrosis. Do you know what I mean? Like it's about how we ask the question. Like if someone said to me, you've got liver problems, I'm saying, oh, I don't really. I don't smoke and I exercise, but I don't feel like I've got lung problems. So, but if someone said people with eyes like yours are usually related to someone who may have had some lung issues, then I'm like, yeah, because I can relate to that. My grandmother did, my brother did, my brother does. He's amazing. He's like 44. He's taken 40 tablets all his life, every single day, and he feels great. I mean, it's not a herbal. He doesn't like herbal stuff, but he takes some things. But what I'm saying is that there's so many things that we can do, but by the way we speak to our clients can really help our relationship to them. Because if someone trusts their doctor or their naturopath or their Chinese practitioner, half of the job's done. Like if they trust you, like literally what you give them, they're going to do, which is great. Now, I'm going to give you just a few little case studies. So this is actually my brother. So my brother's a mixed type. He's a mixed type. And the liver and digestion is super important for him. And one of the reasons why he's so well, I think, is because he was diagnosed at 2 weeks of age in 1980. Because my mum took him and said to the Children's Hospital and said, please find out what's wrong, because his poo reminds me of my daughter who died 9 years before. Because she just associated, you don't forget that smell. So she said, please find out what's wrong. And they diagnosed with cystic fibrosis from that young age, and he's had medication since then. And he's well. He's really good. He's got a son. He runs a very, very busy cafe bakery cafe in Northcote. He's really well. But as a mixed type, digestion's super important for him. And if he doesn't take his creon, which are the pancreatic enzymes, there's no digestion happening. Yeah, and you don't want to go to have a bowel motion after him. You know what I mean? Like he needs that. Like it's super important for him, and that's what he does. Yeah. Whereas this eye is a fabulous eye. When I was studying, like when I was at the Southern School in 1994, nearly everyone had blue or mixed eyes. There weren't many brown-eyed people in my class. But we were scared. Like there was one or two, but we were scared of them because we only had our little torch and you can't see anything. And I remember Helen McGulla said, if it's not there, it's not there. But it's interesting now with really good photography, we can take some amazing photos. This is a very dark friend from Sri Lanka who we took some very good photos. You just change the settings on your camera to higher ISO settings and things, and you can get some really good brown eye photography. Because 59% of the world's got brown eyes. So you want to be able to take really good brown eye photography. And I obviously teach iridology, and I went to China last year, and my course is probably about 60% on blue and mixed eyes. And I felt really embarrassed because everyone in the audience had brown eyes. They all had different eyes, for sure. But I felt really embarrassed. I thought, God, they're not going to see many blue eyes. What am I teaching them? And I went back, I stayed up late and changed a few things, got more case studies, because that's what you want. You learn through case studies. And it was really important, a really good lesson for me, because I've travelled a lot I've taught a lot in Sri Lanka and China, and everyone's got really dark eyes. There's a few mixed, but not that many, okay? So this ring, remember this ring when we were studying, cholesterol ring? Who remembers it? Yeah? Yeah. So it is a cholesterol ring. It's actually called a lipemic diathesis now, because we want to use the same words as ophthalmologists and optometrists. Like we might as well use the same language. So it's called a lipemic diathesis. But in Rayet, it's a ring of determination. So when you see these people, they're really determined. Like, there's sometimes hard to crack. So it's kind of nice to be able to get friendly with them, for them to trust you. If they trust you, that's fine. And these rings come kind of after 50, 60. If you go to a nursing home, you're going to see lots of lipemic rings, for sure. Oh, God. Okay, thank you. You're going to see lots of rings. But in people under 50, it can be more serious. It's like a heart sign. So I said to this guy, you've got to be, he said, I know what you're going to say, because he's an iridologist, you know. And he was so rigid in that he wouldn't speak to his parents because he had an argument with them for about 5 years and they'd never met his daughter. They'd never met. And because I know Rayad, birth order, I said, Therindu, it's really super important for you, for your daughter to have a relationship with her grandma, because that grandmother is her heart grandmother. So it's really important. And during COVID, he texted me and FaceTimed me and said, I've got something. And he was having a juice, which he never has because he's so busy. And he goes, there's someone I want to meet. And it was his mother. And I'm like, and I was crying and he was crying, his mother was crying. And he sent an olive branch to her. She came to Colombo and they've had a really good relationship since. And that's, you know, I could have given him cholesterol medication, which he should have as well. But opening his heart is just as important. And it's really like, and his daughter is completely different. Really, really, her behaviour is really different, and just flourishing with her grandparents. I want to move on because I've only got 10 more minutes. So, the tongue I always look at after the eyes because it reconfirms what I think by looking at the eyes. Because you know when you look in someone's eyes, you think, oh, they're probably going to have an issue with this or this or this. Then you ask them questions for sure. But the tongue confirms that. So the tongue is a really great way. It's a mirror image of the gastrointestinal system. And if someone says they've got this problem and this problem and this problem, and they've got a clean tongue, just ask them, have you cleaned your tongue today? Because the tongue won't lie. And if it's a really super lovely and pink, it's likely to. They're likely to have cleaned it. Yeah, so I always ask them. And I always take photos because the tongue can change and people love to see changes. They love to see when you put, your photos together and there's some changes. So these are the particular, colours that you can see in the tongue. One of the biggest ones are white. If it's really white, it could be candida. If it's really yellow, it's likely to be something to do with the liver. And I'll tell you a story about this lady here. And also, this is a very simple tongue chart. People that have done Chinese medicine will have had much more elaborate charts, and that's fine, but this is a very simple tongue chart they can use. This lady, very dry, isn't she? And so yellow, like you can almost, there's like many millimetres of coating there. She came to see me because she didn't want to take statins because she thought that if she started taking statins, they were going to know everything about her. She was a conspiracy theorist, and that's fine. There's lots of people around like that. But she thought she was on a disability pension, and she did not want to take them because then they know everything about you. That was. And I told her about lemon juice, and I told her about herbs. She said, "I am not taking that." I gave her a taste, and she said, "No." Nah. So I gave her Toco Care by Metagenics, which is that's one thing she was going to take. And she came back and hated lemon juice. So I didn't do that twice. It made my tongue feel awful. And, long story, but she lives on her own. She smokes all day long, and she has a meal at about 6 p.m. and has lots and lots and lots of coffee all day long. And that's her life. She's happy. She wants to live that life, and that's fine. And we've avoided taking statins. And that's what she wanted. I want to do so much more. Oh my God, I was like, wow, we can do so much with this person. But she didn't want to, and that's fine, because you can only take people as far as they want to go. She's happy. I also look at the face. And again, just if there's anything that jumps out at you. If there's red capillaries on the cheeks or on the nose, etc. There's, you can look at those particular areas and ask them a question. You don't have to know that, this is from Chinese medicine and Ayurveda. You don't have to know that this line is this long or that long. Just look at the map and ask them a question. That's all. Because we're, as naturopaths and as herbalists and Chinese practitioners, etc., we learn to ask the right questions. And the body helps us to ask the right questions. If you get the right questions, the answer is going to find you. And also be really, really careful what you say to your body. Because our body listens. Our body's your best friend ever. So if you don't want hemorrhoids, stop calling your husband a pain in the ass. Like, I'm serious. Like, it's funny, but it's actually because our body listens. Our body says, oh, okay, I can do that. So yeah, say nice things to yourself. You can say that it's challenging, or that your child the behaviour at 3 a.m. is challenging for sure, but they're not a pain in the neck unless you want a pain in the neck. These are my parents, and I wanted to show you these because my mum's got a huge line in the middle here. I've got 5 here. Okay, I'm nearly there. My mum's got a huge line in between her eyes, which is the liver area. So liver's one of her primary nurture points, and my dad's got lots of lines, coming up from his liver area right up through the intestines, and he had He had the wrong thing. He thought, well, why can't I have rice pudding? I take my tablets. He takes his diabetes medication, so he thinks he can have. And you know what? And I said to my mum, just leave him. Just let him enjoy it. I mean, in the end, it doesn't really matter. If he enjoys it, it's better to have his rice pudding and just enjoy it, because he wasn't going to take other stuff. Anyway, I won't go too much into that. But what do we see here? What do you see? A red flag? What about here? 2. 3. So sometimes our body gives us so many red flags. There's a red flag in the eyes. Like let's say there's lots of yellow in the sclera. Okay? Let's say there's lots of yellow in our tongue. Let's say there's a really thick mark between here. That's 3 liver flags. That's your body saying, please listen to me. And sometimes we don't listen, or we don't get those messages, and our body catches up. So we can listen to these markings when they're young, when we can prevent them. That's what we're here for. We're here to prevent issues. So I know not many people come because they want to prevent being sick. But people come because they're sick often, mostly. But what we can do is keep them well by educating them about their own bodies. So I just want to leave you with every eye is perfect and beautiful. So if someone says, is there something wrong with my eye? No, it's perfect for you. Each position, each structure, each pattern is beautiful, healthy and good. And we have no judgment, and we let the goodness shine. Okay? And if you're ever in areas where there are iris art, has anyone seen iris art? They're amazing. They're so talented at taking your eye and making it into an art. So these are pictures that we've got on our wall, and this is actually my 5 kids. And you see they're all different. Like there's 2 sets of twins there, but they're all very different, and it reflects the personality. So you can see my oldest daughter, who's got jewels and flowers. That's a shaker type. That's someone who's really a real go-getter, and she is. She's a real go-getter. Whereas my son at the end doesn't have any jewels. He's calm, not calmer, but he likes to learn with his hands. Is a really good friend, trustworthy, likes to do things like physically do. It's just such different personalities all the way through. And if you ever have a chance to learn Rayad, it's fascinating. Fascinating. And I've got one more picture. This is my daughter, and I was going to use her eye when she was 5, and she's got a square collarette. Can you see that there's a square autonomic nerve wreath? That impinges on the 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and 8 o'clock, and the pancreas areas. Okay? So she said, what are you going to say about me, Daddy? And I said, well, I'm going to say that you're full of love, because pancreas and the heart are associated with love. If you're a pancreatic type, you want to be appreciated and loved. So I said, well, I'm going to say that you are full of love. And she is. And what I've trained her, and she's 21 now, she doesn't have much sugar. She probably has a bit too much alcohol at the moment, but that's all right. She doesn't have too much sugar, but she knows that if she has too much, there's going to be repercussions, because the pancreas needs to be nurtured. So hopefully she does things in her life that she absolutely loves and adores, so she doesn't need as many Tim Tams. Does that make sense? Because you need to get it from somewhere. You're either going to get it from the Tim Tams or the Cadbury, or you're going to get it from what you do in your life. So the body needs balance. Thank you for being here. I've got a book called People with Eyes Like These that's on Amazon. I have got a few copies here if you want one in the break. But I'm really excited about my next book, The 80-15-5 Rule. It's going to be a small, thin book for people, because people think they need to be 100%, and that makes them not do anything. So thank you so much for being here, and I really appreciate it. Yes, I go back. The first two and the last two. But they were fraternal. They're boy-girl twins. Yeah, they were fraternal. But yeah, the first two and the last two. 21 years old and 16 years old. And we had one in the middle. And the last twin, we had scans for my wife didn't have scans for the last set. Had a home birth and it was a surprise twin. Wow. It was, I've got a photo of me going like 3 days overdue, which is really unusual for twins. Wow. Anyway. Yes.
Any other questions?
Just there.
Just one question. Ex-sister-in-law, she showed me the tongue at the time was white and all full of cracks like an earthquake.
Yeah. Often when there's cracks, it can show a tendency to inflammation in the gut. So that's where I would think. But often when it's really white, I question them on thrush, and it could be to do with viruses as well, like flu and things. But if there's lots of cracks, you are going to question them on inflammation. Potential. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I'm a nutritionist, so I know nothing about this at all, but I just noticed what I mentioned that human lives change.
Yeah, so with children, Jules, the actual, from what we understand, the actual structure will be, it's from, most likely from conception. But jewels can be added. And usually children aren't born with jewels. They, even though they're genetic, they show up in our eyes later. So they're the pigments. They show up in our, but usually by teenhood, the jewels that you've genetically acquired will be there. But we can also acquire pigment by things we do. Like, we used to say that if you do something really toxic, it will have pigment. But they don't go. Our current understanding is that they don't go once they're there. But if you think it's like a Band-Aid, think of a pigment like a Band-Aid protecting your knee. Why do you want that Band-Aid to go? Yeah. So once they're there, from what we know is they don't go. But yeah, I mean, and colour, like the colour of your eye does fade sometimes when we get older. Yeah.
All right, so we've probably got one more question, and then.
I know you've got online courses there, but are you doing any face-to-face courses?
I do face-to-face on Zoom once a year. But I am, if you want to come to Athens, I'm doing a course in Athens in March next year with Alan. You know Alan Jensen. She's the daughter-in-law of Bernard Jensen. So we're doing a course together in Athens at the end of March.
Sounds amazing.
But yeah, it's on Zoom. I mean, the online course is done face-to-face on Zoom once a year. I can let you know. Yeah.
One quick one.
The human being always changing for the emotional.
Yeah.
So the color always changing, even younger, older, and the older age. It's very hard. You can see the moment what is the changing for the chemical for the body.
So you're saying that emotionally we're changing? Yeah, absolutely. But it's not necessarily going to be reflected in the structure of your eyes, from what we understand. Does that make sense? So the lines that go from the pupil to the edge won't necessarily change because of that. But yeah, we're learning. Like my emotional relation to myself is completely different to my dad. But I wouldn't be who I am without that either. Like it's like an evolution. Does that make sense? But I don't think the colour of the structure won't change. But in our bodies, for sure. Yeah. Because what we think changes our face. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Christos.
Take this off. Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Just
Yeah.